Yeah, let's invite Prime Minister to begin the debate. Yeah, if you can activate your camera, it would be better.
Ada ganda nggak?
Yeah, please lower the volume of the other device.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please lower the volume of the other device so it will not be echoing.
Check.
Yeah, it's still. The other device
Okay.
got lower the volume of the other device that is in the same room.
Check.
Yeah, better now.
Oke. Mam, timer dong.
Win.
Tepukin aja ya. All right, my name is Jagat. I am from the government team. My gender preference is he or his, and POI apa sih? POI preference, you can just unmute yourself, and I'm going to start in. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as under the motion this house would live fast fashion, we think that what do we mean by fast fashion in the status quo is that new clothing trend arise that changes rapidly to meet another new trends, ladies and gentlemen. Two characterization upon these trends. The first one, it is usually in an affordable price. Then we think that the mainstream consumers can easily follow these fashion trends at the end of the day. But we think that there are several problems that are going to happen under the status quo. For example, the first one is that we think that the biggest problem that might happen in a bigger picture, we think that the rapid changes creates paradigm to the society to always follow new trends and leave the expired trends. For example, the clothes which are not in fit to the trend will be waste, ladies and gentlemen. So what will be the result of this thing, ladies and gentlemen? We think in the status quo that the developed country massively produce, but afterwards the waste is being distributed to the developing world, ladies and gentlemen. We think that in the status quo, the biggest problem of fast fashion is that the idea of the waste is not renewable, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we think that the idea of fast fashion is just going to worsen the problem of climate change that we are actually facing right now. So that's why, as the government side, we clearly state our stance that we want to leave the fast fashions itself, ladies and gentlemen. How do we are going to live the fast fashion at the end of the day? In the first mechanism, we want to endorse the celebrity and influencers, for example, to spread the awareness of long-last fashion as opposed to fast fashion, for example, through Emma Watson, Leonardo DiCaprio, and etc. through his documentary film, for example, and etc. And also, what do we mean then by long last fashion? Is that we want to make the society use the fashion based on their need and use it to the fullest and minimize the waste of fashions itself, ladies and gentlemen. And the last one, we want to live the fast fashion by using this endorsement to celebrity in order to shift the trends. And at the end of the day, the fashion production will be reduced in order because of the demand from the society is actually minimized because of the trends is going to be shifted into the awareness of the environmental issues, right? So that's why we think that this is going to be very effective to happen at the end of the day. So at the end, as the government set up the house, we want to minimize the waste from fast fashion itself by leaving the fast fashion at the end of the day. Several things that I'm going to talk. The first one is I would like to talk about the idea of why fast fashion is actually so evil. So we should then leave this fast fashion and even the existence of consumerism also, and also why that even if that the opposition is going to argue about on the idea of trend is very good for several stakeholders. For example, why then we think that losing this trend is still okay, ladies and gentlemen. And the next one, I would like to talk about the idea of developing and versus developed world. How that in the status quo, fast fashion is being so bad, and for both worlds, and even to the developing world, how that they are actually being more suffer in the status quo, and how I'm going to explain how our solution is very effective in order to cater the current problem. First one, we think why that the fast fashion is so evil is because of the idea of rapid changes that happen in the status quo. We think that, for example, the A is trend in the status quo, and it turns into B, for example. And then what will happen? The related clothes to trend A, for example, will be expired, ladies and gentlemen. What will happen to those clothes? They will be seen as trash, and then so people will just throw those clothes which are not in fit to the new trends itself, ladies and gentlemen. Why we think that this is so evil? Because in the status quo, we think that the status quo has already so bad, right? For example, that we are facing climate change when where we are actually are having so many waste from carbon emission, paper, petrol, and even from fashion. Right, fashion field. Right now, we have unrenewable clothes trends, which create a lot of waste, ladies and gentlemen. Even in the status quo, we think that the education field, for example, is not being considered as the field that provide waste. Waste, for example, we think that that's why starting from now on, we need to see how fast fashion is also need to be considered as the one that is really contributing into the environmental damaging itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we need to really consider and focusing on this point. So moving on to why that this consumer moving on to the idea of consumerism in the status quo, right? We think the consumer characterization is under two things. The first one, the mainstream consumer, for example, is easily following the trends, ladies and gentlemen, because they are being exposed into easily exposed into the social media. For example, they are easily seeing how new trends has been shown that they see in the status quo. And second of all, we think that they are uneducated enough to the environmental awareness. Even if in the status quo we find a lot of activism regarding to the crime, regarding to the environmental issues, we think that that's not enough, because of a lot of people are actually following the fashion trends and not seeing what problems behind that. So we think the idea of consumerism is going to be very worsened in the status quo, because of this fast fashion is going to force our society to follow new trends, every time. So that's why we think that it is and people just going to buy more without considering the ways that they are going to create, ladies and gentlemen. Even if we are going to lose the idea of trendy, for example, one human is going to follow the new trend, for example, we want to change the trend through these celebrities. That's why it is going to be very effective. We think that the developed world is the one that rising the trend, and the developing world is the actually followers, will always being the trash bin from the developed world. For example, like H&M, Uniqlo, and Zara. Yeah, thank you. So
Thanks for that speech. Now I would like to invite the leader of the opposition.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible but echoing. Can you
Oh wait,
lower the volume
wait
of
a
the other
second.
device? Yes.
Hello. What about now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. For my POI preference, I would like to go through chat, so my speech won't be disturbed, and also for my gender pronouns, you can call me he or him. I'll start my speech in three, two, one. Okay, so as the leader of the officer of the house, we are disagree about the motion, which is this house would leave fast fashion. What, why, and how is it that I'm going to tell you and also inform you in my explanation. So first of all, let me start with giving some rebuttals to the prime minister's arguments. So there are many causes of rise of fast fashions, right? So through the influence of social media and technological innovations in manufacturing, communications, and distributions, the fast fashion business is growing exponentially. But the government questioned about some problematic issues that might come throughout this fast fashion's idea. The government mentioned about fast fashion are going to outcomes many unusable clothes because the production of these clothes are rapidly produced in big volumes that harm the environment. But under opposition, we don't see this as a very problematic issue because of some reasons, which is first, the prime minister mentioned about that not trendy clothes anymore will be wasted and etc. But we do believe that in the end of the day, these clothes will also be distributed again and again from other to another, also thrifted as well, or also being donated. So the idea of circulation was still standing and exist within this fast fashion in our society under opposition side of the house. Second of all, we do believe that in the status quo right now, people will have common sense and also realistic thoughts about how they are going to buy those clothes or not, about how they are going to follow the trend, even if these clothes are affordable to be bought. But the idea of massive buying will not too problematic because as we know that not all people have the same interest in fashion, because as we all notice that fashion is very arbitrary and also subjective through one individual eyes to others individuals eyes. So here I'm telling you that that means what I think is fashion that is good or fashionable or a trend that I need to follow maybe will not be considered to other people's eyes. So the idea of fast fashion that indirectly forcing people to follow that trend or to follow those fashions or to over masses buying those clothes will not be too chaotic, and also uh, the government only exaggerating about this idea. The government also wanted their companies to lowering their volumes of clothes productions, but we do believe that it is not that easy to say. Why? We have to notice that companies have their own interests, right? They have their own targets, they have their own standards of production, and also they have their own marketing and also income targets. So we do believe that this idea coming from the government will not be considered as a solution in the end of the day that we could use. They also stated about the environment getting harmed and harmed, but we see this as an over-glorifying arguments because, as I already said to you, that the circulations of these clothes will also be standing under our side. No, now that after linking back to my explanation, I do believe that why under opposition we don't see this fast fashions that urgent to be abandoned. Uh, no, thank you. And also now moving on to my arguments. So we wish as oppositions that we could maintain fast fashion because of some reasons that I will inform to you now. How fast fashion is good to be maintained, has got to be maintained. There are some reasons that I will explain to you right now. First of all, the fast fashion is one of our source of income. We have to notice that whether we care or not, whether we notice or not, fashion is one of our biggest source of income. Many big fashion companies that produce clothes, or as well we call fast fashion, is one of the forces that runs our economy. If we stop fast fashion, of course it will draw out economic downfall and etc. Because we are directly attacking our own resources
resource of income. It is the same like stop the production of cigarettes. We know that cigarettes is bad, but cigarettes is one of our of our economic source of income. That is the similar example throughout this fast fashion. But so here we can see that as opposition, we consider that if we stop fast fashion, we will only create more harms than maintaining it. So we can conclude that we need to keep up initiating fast fashion. Then we immediately stop it and suddenly making the chaotic situation where our status quo, where our country is facing another economic and etc. problems that is bigger, that is affecting our nations more and more, creating harm than maintaining these fast fashions. And second reasons, fast fashions is the demands of the society itself about the new trends, and also the one other reasons is the suitability of the society itself. We have to start to think that our second vulnerable actor than the economic sectors that will be affected by the gun of these fast fashions, which is our society demands. Of course, if we stop these fast fashions, but stop producing other trends and other kind of clothes, we have to notice that it will affect our society. Of course, our society will also demand new trends. It is their natural demands where they need those new fashions, those new clothes, and also plus those companies also producing those clothes for the demands of the society to be fulfilled. Not just only that, but they are fulfilling the target of our economy. So the idea of economic and also the demands of the people will also work under our side. This these two ideas will also help each other because it is connected. Because if we produce these clothes, if we produce these new trends, it is fulfilling the demands of the people. If this fulfilling the demands of the people, our economic will run smoothly. So these two ideas will also be standing if we maintaining this fast fashion. Then we immediately stop it and creating a chaotic situation where our economic downfall exists, where our people like uh, like denying and also neglecting our initiation. So we believe that under opposition, we see fast fashion as just fine, and also we doesn't need that. We need to we need to urgently stop these fast fashions and etc. I'm proudly to open the opposition case.
Guys, please wait 1 minute. I will go to toilet. Is it okay?
Yeah,
Okay, Kak.
All right, I'm back. So let's invite Deputy Prime Minister.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Wait, Kak. I need to prepare from my paper. Timer. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. In the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen, people are very consumptive and live a wasteful life. They tend to focus on fulfilling their desire instead of their needs. They are following all the trends without necessarily think the impact for themselves and also for the environment. It's okay. We say that it's okay to follow the trends when it's having a good impact, like for example, you follow the trend of saving the earth, the zero waste, feminism maybe, and so on. But it's never been justified to follow the trends which are going only create problems for ourselves and order, and also for this world, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to say that the goal of government is very simple, that we want to encourage our society to be aware of their self. We want them to get rid of these fast fashions because we think that it is very problematic, and we are going to save them, also save our earth through the campaign and endorsement to leave these fast fashions. Why we want to live is exactly about the three things that two has been mentioned by Jagat, which is the first one is the fast fashion, is how he explained how this fast fashion is very evil. Second, he clearly mentions how the company characterization, which is only taking considers benefit. And lastly, I'm going to talk about further. I'm going to talk about the possibility of this movement will create a massive or huge benefit for global change, ladies and gentlemen. But before that, I'm going to discuss several things coming from option set of the House. They believe government option set of the House stated that people are having a common sense, that they are having they are able to pick and choose which is good and which is bad for them. So they will not merely going to follow the trend, ladies and gentlemen. But I say no, ladies and gentlemen. They forget they forget how this trend creates, ladies and gentlemen. They forget how, for example, this trend is created by a lot of glorifications through celebrities endorsement, for example, which have massive influence with the society. They also forget to mention how this company glorifies through a very glamour advertise. So they make that all of this stuff is very worth it to buy, even it's expensive and you don't need it exactly. And also they forget to mention about the externalities which is coming from the society itself, where within the society, on the ground of the society, you will get bullied because you're seeing that, because whenever you don't follow the trend, you will seen as an old school, for example, and you are out of the group. No one will go with you because you are seen as the a nerd, because you not try to follow the trend. This is somehow all this stuff is going to create the mindset of the society that they are going to they are pretend to follow the trends. They are forcing to follow the trends in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. That's how the existence of this trend is really bad, and we don't want this type of trends, which is the fast fashion itself, is going to be happen anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, the idea of government side of the House is that they pandering on the economic side. They believe that by our movement, it will hampering they will hampering the economic setup, because we are going to stop the production simply. We are going simply to stop the production, and we are going to stop the source of income from the company, and also for the nation itself. We will say no, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to save all the stakeholders will be saved, ladies and gentlemen. Talking about the economic will be okay, ladies and gentlemen. What we do as opposition, as government side of the house, we are not going to stop the productions, right? We are going to limit them to create trend, to move fast to another trend. So whenever they having a trend, we will limit them to create a new one. So So this trend will be long lasting. So people will not tend to force to buy this new clothes, and it will be having damage, which is the very lot of wasteful clothes, which is going to hamper the environment itself. I'm going to explore deeply about this in my argument. Second is talking about the vulnerable actors, which is the society demands. Ladies and gentlemen, the society demand is only what they need. They need clothes, but they don't need the trend itself, ladies and gentlemen. So we are okay with this, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So Jagat has clearly mentions you about the practical benefit that we are going to get, which is the environmental side itself, ladies and gentlemen. Why the practical benefit is there? When we leave these fast fashions, the practical benefit is going to stop. We are going to stop the producing these clothes in huge amount which are going to be wasted later on, ladies and gentlemen. When no one will willing to buy the stuff, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that the textile industry is also contribute a lot of our emissions productions due to its long process of making clothes, for example, which is really harmful for the environment, and also because of the massive production. So in our world, these industries will reduce their productions, not stopping them, but they only reduce the production because the trend is limit, and we are going to reach our goal to reduce the amount of emission and save our world. Okay, talking about the second vulnerable actor, which is the consumer itself, ladies and gentlemen. We say that they are the most vulnerable one in this case, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to save them. No more trends to follow, ladies and gentlemen, in our side of the house. No more rushing on buying clothes which you don't need exactly simply to following the trend, right? So if you say that you are going to help mainstream consumer to follow the trend in affordable price through this fast fashion, I say no, ladies and gentlemen. You're only burden them to follow the trend that you create, ladies and gentlemen. You make the trend through the endorsement of celebrities, the glamour advertisement, and all those externalities. So your clothes will be look so worth it to buy, even in expensive price, and somehow people are affordable to buy it, ladies and gentlemen. Then, when the cloth is no longer affordable, you create a new trend, so you can simply dump the products to those mainstream consumers who are willing to pay simply to follow the trend itself, ladies and gentlemen. This is somehow we see that these fast fashions is only a marketing strategy which only benefit the company and hampering the consumers. We think that this is the evil of the company because they only taking advantage from this trend. They only focus on making profit, ladies and gentlemen. So we believe that by leaving this fast fashion is somehow good for us, ladies and gentlemen, for the consumer itself. Okay, talking about the company, what about the company? They will not get hampered at all, ladies and gentlemen. Their industries will keep running because clothing and stuff will be needed forever, ladies and gentlemen. People will keep on buying them. The only harm, maybe, if you're talking about harm, the only harm for the companies that they are no longer obtain as much as profit as before, ladies and gentlemen, because there is no marketing strategy from this fast fashion. We think that it's okay because this environmental issues is more worth it, more urgent to be catered, ladies and gentlemen. It is, and also all of these company owners are also living in our earth. So we think that they also having moral responsibility to fight for this. Okay, talking about the possibility to succeed, I think that I have spent much time on. Thank you.
Thanks for that speech. Let's invite Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Am I clear? Okay, before I start my speech, if you have any POI, just unmute yourself. And my gender preference is she, her. And I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think that living fast fashions isn't necessary if we are start on being a smart society in order to buy or consuming such clothes from these fast fashion industries such as H&M, Zara, Pull&Bear, and etc. Because living such a fast fashion will make us become a monoton person, and etc. While living a fast fashion will not give us any alternative. Because every clothing store are doing fast fashion, but what makes it different is it's just not visible because of the invisible distribution of model that they spread everywhere. So fast fashion or not, every store are doing a fast fashion. So if you live fast fashion, where did you will buy your clothes if you're not doing this such a fast fashions. And also, what is failed from the government side of the house is that they told us to leave fast fashion without giving any solutions on what will happen if we leave the fast fashion later on. They don't giving any alternative that we can use to as a place to buy clothes, for example, and etc. And several points that I would like to respond from the government side of the house. Firstly, they mentioned about the desire. Society will use desire, will also gain their desire than their needs. But we think that it's normal from the society, and it is their options as they have a different interest. So also following trends. And also they bring up an example about why don't we following a better trends like save the earth or zero waste and etc. But this is a not necessary example from the government side of the house, because such a trends are already exist. Even government are promoting it because, and right now society is progressive. So, and also so many companies are campaigning this save the earth and zero waste. So this is not a considered to be a good alternative or trends like what they said, because society are already aware of this issue and etc. Also, they mentioned about a massive influence from celebrity, but we think that society isn't that stupid, because they will get what their influencer endorsing, for example, if they can afford it. If not, then they won't afford it because they have their own interest and they have their own influence and style, etc. And also they mentioning about old school, but we think that this old school will happening worse in your side, because there will if you're not buying clothes from this fast fashion, you will not following the trends, then your appearance will be just old school like that, and there will be no variety and
One, ma'am.
no thank you, and etc. And also they mention about how economic to be okay by we limiting them, but we don't even have we think that we don't have even a large scale rights to do that, since company already have their own management on how they count their profit and how they count the management and etc. Also they mention about how to limit the trend, so it will be long lasting, so we will not be going into that trend for always getting into that trend. But how can you guarantee in your side without following the fast fashion that your fashion will be long lasting? You can even guarantee that how in your side, if we living fast fashion, will be more better, because there will be no variety and everything will be monotone. They don't giving us a solutions. Also they are neglecting the fact that we broke that society have a different interest, so we think that their proposal is already fall. All of them is already fall. And now moving to my argument. First one, what will happen if we leave fast fashion? We will losing an idea of variety of clothes. Notice on how every day you are choosing up clothes for your daily outfit. Notice on how when you see a new clothes trend in social media or from your idol, you are interested to have such a style also. Notice on how big is outfit or style is being one of our personal branding, and how it can define our personality and taste in choosing fashion. That is why, since consuming fashion is such a fundamental thing, we don't really have an urge to live it. Now, imagine when you are having when you are having a formal occasion when it requires you to use a different outfit from your clothes. The one that will provide you the clothes variety is the fast industrial itself. Because if you, and also second of all, if you're worrying about how it can affect the environment or how the clothes accumulations will be worse, notice on how conscious customers are aware of these issues and can ask for the alternative of fast fashion. Because right now the ethical and sustainable fashion trend is already growing enough, and plenty of great brands and retailers now offer a responsible fashion at an affordable price. And fast fashion accelerate a supply chains and drive costs down to meet constantly evolving consumers' demand, which is us as the consumer. And also we won't neglecting the fact that environmental issue exists, but this environmental issue caused by fast fashion, it can still be tolerated because there will be more circulations of the clothes itself. We can doing a pre-loved clothes, we can do a thrifting, or even these clothes can be donated to those who have a lower income, so they don't have money to buy clothes and etc. So they still be another alternative that we can still use this in this fast fashion by recycling, etc. And not like other industrial industry which affect the environment straight to the environment, like industrial for machines and etc. who polluting the air, the water, and no, thank you. And also, second of all, living fast fashion will cover economical circle and it can affect us as well. Notice on how harmful it is when everyone are living fast fashion. Despite of lack of style, variety, all of these companies are having an investment in country. And when they withdrawing the investment, this will reduce a country's salary, and a lot of their workers or employee will be fired, because we often seek for a job vacancy in such company also as an example of different interests of people on where they want to apply for a job. From that large scale of harmfulness that start to lead from living fast fashion, we think that fast fashion also leads into a win-win solution for both customer and company, because company have more consumer spending and more profit, and on the other side, consumer gets satisfaction of being able to participate in a trend with a good style or quality. Because we think whether fast fashion exists or not, the idea of fashion will be upgrading as time passes by. But so that is why we think that living fast fashion is an urgent things to do. That is why I'm proud to oppose our team's case. Thank you.
Thanks for that speech. Let's invite Government Whip.
Okay. Check my audible.
Yeah, sure.
Wait. Well, my I preference it's unmute yourself. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. When I forbid my father to smoking, but my sister always give my father a cigarette, my effort will not be success. So I need to collaborate with my sister to stop the bad habit of my father itself, because it is harm from him, right? So it is same case with the it is same case with the motion right now, when we are struggling to fight against climate change, but massive society still think about the interest like the fashion itself. So there is why, ladies and gentlemen, we need to change to live the prestation itself with the our purpose. It's more benefit. It's to take responsibility to save our environment, not to put our ego to follow just a trend fast fashion itself. It's only benefit for society, but it is worse our environment, ladies and gentlemen. So there is why as the government team, we believe we want to leave the fast fashion itself. So before I go to my argument, I have some rebuttal for the opposition team. First, opposition team say that the clothes can be distributed again and again, such as we want to, such as we can reuse, resell, or such as the fill up itself, ladies and gentlemen. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not will be work anymore. Why I say that? Because when we are sell again or use again the cloth itself, at the end of the day, the clothes will be trash, only trash, ladies and gentlemen, and we can't to use anymore because they can break, they can break, and we can recycle again. It's not like a plastic or the paper itself, ladies and gentlemen, but it is the cloth. It cannot be recycled. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the trash of the cloth it's very big problem in our country. It's same why the Leonardo DiCaprio said that the cloth it's only make a flat, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important for us to live again the live fast fashion itself. And they said about the massive buyers. It's not all of the people have same fashion, but ladies and gentlemen, it's about the trend when even they have different fashion, but the trend it's still existing where they follow the trend from different level, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, even they are have this different fashion, but there are still massive buyer who can buy the trend, who still follow the trend with their favorite label itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, and they only talking about the it is good to maintain because it is a source of income same as the cigarette itself. But ladies and gentlemen, we know that in a status quo, at least in the cigarette, we have to give a warning for society to stop the smoking itself. So that is why it is the time for us to give warning for the society also to leave the fast fashion. But remember, we not stop the production of the cloth itself. We still supply the clothes for society. So don't worry if the society cannot use the clothes. Society still can buy the clothes, but not follow the trend itself. And in our debate, we are debating about that it is better for us to leave the fast fashion itself, and the second, it is better for our environment. It is better to protect our environment or to prioritize the society trend itself. So first, why to leave the fast fashion? It's very necessary because we know that in the fast fashion itself, when society have demand to some of product, the company will do the massive production of the product itself, and we know that the massive production it's very it's very product the gas emission itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, uh, it's very harmful for our environment. And at the end of the day, when the production it's expired or it is kind of the old trend by society easy to throw away the cloth itself and don't want to use to wear it again. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the clothes only will be waste and cannot be wear anymore. So ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to only follow the ego of society, just want to look at trendy by the trend itself. But we also think about the how many society is suffer because the climate change itself, but the global warming itself because the trust of the society itself. So why it is important for us to save our environment than the threat itself? Because the environment it's the for our life, ladies and gentlemen. Because we cannot live with the good environment, but we can live with not follow the fashion itself, ladies and gentlemen. So it is very important to follow our responsibility first to save our environment, to protect our environment by limit our ego to just buyer or to be a consumerism, such as to only buy the clothes even we not need it, that just only want to fulfill the trend in society itself. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important for us to look the fast fashion itself by our mechanism, such as the endorse the celebrity, how the fast fashion it's very bad. It is bad for the society and environment because society it's only be a consumerism person and it is bad towards our money and it is the harm for our environment because the trust of the cloth itself can be recycled. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, in here we don't want to stop the clothing production, but we only leave the fast fashion itself. So the companies think how they can provide the usable product for the society, not because the demand of society, because they only want to follow the trend and ego, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, our proposal it's better than the opposition team because the opposition team just easy. Oh, it is easy for us to reuse, resell, or reuse, resell the cloth itself. But they don't forget if they if the mass of the cloth is and we can recycle it again, and it's only be trust, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm back to oppose this motion. Propose this motion. Thank you.
Kayaknya Rabis lebih sarkas. Only the rubbish.
Position with, are you there?
Oh, yeah, hello, I'm here.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah, sure, audible.
Okay, so I'm going to set my timer. My gender pronouns is he or him, and my behavior preference, just unmute yourself. Starting in 3, 2, 1. I think this debate should be talking whether or not we should leave the fast fashion or not. 2 points coming from government. First, they want to leave the fast fashion because of the climate change, and second, about the consumerism. But I'm going to explain to you why, in the first place, government has failed to explain this their ideas in the right way. Okay, but before that, one independent rebuttals. First, they're talking about why fast fashion is evil. They explain to us because of the idea of rapid change, the clothes will be expired and it will be creating a climate change, and etc. For response to this argument, first, they're being inconsistent in their goal panel. Their first speakers stated to us that they want to totally bashing out the idea of fast fashion. But then their second speaker stated to us about they want to limit the production. So they're very inconsistent in this in their goal in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. Second response, we do believe that the status quo is progressive enough, ladies and gentlemen. Both of my previous speakers have trying to explain to you that our society is progressive by like the example is there are many celebrants recycling and doing a donation to the clothes itself, right? So we do believe that the society is progressive enough. Third response, we say that the idea of climate change is not exclusive. Why? Because the idea of environmental issue will still exist in their side of the house. Let's play in their best case scenario. Let's say that we are going to leave the idea of fast fashion. Say that we leave the idea of fast fashion. Environmental damage will still exist under the side of the house, because notice the idea of environmental damage not only caused by fast fashion. It can also caused by plastic pollution, oil industry, and etc. So the idea of environmental damage is not exclusive and not relevant anymore. It can still exist under in the side of the house, even if that they are trying to leave the idea of fast fashion. And last response is there's no step-by-step analysis. Why then fast fashion is highly contingent with climate change? There are no correlation with the analogy with smoking and etc. Like what opposition has explained to us. They're only citing those words like, oh, fast fashion will only creating climate change without necessarily elaborate it or give us a step-by-step analysis. Why then it's contingently high? Why is it contingent with climate change? So I found two clash in this debate. First is the idea of consumerism. Second is about the idea of trend. So government came up with an idea about consumerism that they will get encouraged to buy the trend from celebrity, and then also our society will throw away the expired clothes, and also they will get bullied and discrimination and etc. For response to this case. First, the idea of discrimination or bullied, for instance, will only exist in the higher class of society. And even if it's only in the higher class of society, it is very low. So what do I mean by this? The one with the higher financial will easily throw away those expired clothes, right? But the one with the standard or average low, the average income will keep those expired clothes. So and also notice panel. This also has been tackled out by my previous speaker that saying that oh, our society is not that stupid, and so we don't see any significant harm on this idea. But secondly, the characteristic of our society in our current status quo is they have a different interest in the fashion and a different economic stability, right? Maybe the low income will hard to afford the original clothes and etc. But under opposition, we do believe that it is still okay if we are letting the fast fashion trend ongoing. We don't see any significant harm from the fast fashion. Gov has failed to prove to us that why fast fashion has created a massive harm. Therefore, they want to leave the idea of fast fashion. Like and thirdly, we do believe if we are still letting the fast fashion trend ongoing, we gave our society the freedom of clothing, ladies and gentlemen. Like my first speaker have explained to you that the clothing style of our society is arbitrary. Like the like what they think is stylish, maybe other people won't see it as stylish. And also notice the demand from the society in the first place. There's no different when you buy a replicant clothes, right? So let's go and lastly, let's compare our side with their side. Under Gov, what you'll find is a society that's full of discrimination in clothing. Why? Because you will force the lower class with the low economy, but those original products with an expensive cost. But if they are trying to argue that in our side people will discriminate because they buy replicant products and etc., we say that under operation, if we are still letting the fast fashion trend, we give our society a chance to buy those products without necessarily discriminate all of them. So the idea of discrimination will be worse under the government side of the house. Second class about the idea of trend. They came up with a solution that oh yeah, we'll give them a long lasting trend because our society is very consumative and etc. Okay, let's play in their point of view. Let's play in their solution where they give where they give us a solution about long lasting trend. But but notice panel, it won't work. Why? Because in the first place, if the society itself, if the society itself has been glorifying the trend itself, then it is very contradiction with their explanation. In the first place, our society is demanding to have a new trend, but then they're trying to state it to us that we will like limit the trend or and etc. So it will be contradict with their explanation, ladies and gentlemen. So what will the world under opposition will look like? First, the idea of discrimination will be less because we give our society a chance to buy the replicant products. So the idea of discrimination will be less, but it will be worse under the setup of the house. Second, the demand of a society will still exist and won't be harmed because we give them a chance. But under the of the house, they will just limit the trend itself. So I do believe that we should upper hand government side. Thank you.
Thanks for that speech. Let's invite the opposition with.
Okay, wait a second. I'll start my timer first. Okay, I'll start my reply speech in 3, 2, 1. I think in this motion where this house would live fast fashion, we both stream agree that fast fashion affect our life since clothes are become our daily needs. But what is it? What is we are debating about is that whether or not we would live fast fashions, and what is being asked in this debate is that for our first. Which team can giving picturizations on why we should or shouldn't leave the fast fashion world? And second of all, which team can giving alternative from their actions? And now see from the side to side analysis. From the side of government, from the first, second, and whip, they are keep running around in circles on 3 points. Firstly, environmental issue. Second of all, how the following trend is bad. And third of all, they want to reduce company productions. And beside of that 3 points, they are just running around in between. But we think we already tackled all of these big 3 points from coming from them, and how we are questioning about how in their case they don't giving any solutions or alternative on what will happen if we leave fast fashion itself. What is the benefit in their side if we leave fast fashion itself? They don't giving any clear stance on their side of the house. Second of all, their urgency about environmental issue isn't enough because we already giving how the environmental damage caused by fast fashion can be tolerated, and how there are already exist like thrifting world or pre-love and etc., and how people are already aware of such an environmental issue. So that is why such company having already doing a more alternative fashions, which is they are already responsible for that. And that is why we think that their big point is already felt. And now in our side propositions, we already giving you a picturization on why we shouldn't live, because firstly people have different interests and we cannot just neglecting the fact that people have different interests. And also we already stated to you that fast fashion is same everywhere. Even though if you are not shopping clothes in this fast industry, this clothes store already are same as fast fashions, and we are questioning to them also, if we are not buying things in this store, then where will we buy such a clothes, and how can we upgrading our styles as our personal branding and etc. And also, we already explained to you about how company have their own management and standard, and how economical like investment and job vacancy is already beneficial for it in the fast fashion industrial itself. And also the other thing is that we already explained about how fast fashion is the demand of society, which leads to win-win solution between company and customer, where company have their own profit, and the customer can get satisfactions from these trends that they are following, and how people can doing their interest by this fast fashion itself. And we already explained about from that thing, the distribution of the clothes will be having a running run in cycle, so it won't be wasted to the environment that bad. And that is why we think that already explained that fast fashion or not, fashion will be upgrading. So they, from their case, they don't really also respond to our case and points, because they keep glorifying their stance without explaining why our solution bad, what bad caused by our stance, and etc. They don't giving a more exclusive response to all of our case. So that is why we think that in this debate we are more standing towards this motion, and that is why we would not leave the fast fashion itself. And that is why from opposition, thank you very much.
Thanks for that speech. Now I would like to invite the government reply.
All right. Can I have timer, Mom? Thank you. Yes. Ingatin ya kalau misalkan udah 2, 3, 4. All right. I'm going to start my reply speech in 3, 2, 1. First of all, let's start how this debate happens in this debate, ladies and gentlemen. We think that it's pretty funny when the opposition side of the house believe that they already win this debate by providing win-win solution between upon the consumer and the company. We think that at the end of the day, they are not providing a solution into what our current problem, in which that we should really care into the environmental issues. Yes, they already provide. They already give us portray some kind of pre-love actions, for example, but they never really answer how significant that the idea of pre-love is going to be very significant in order to capture the idea of massive waste that going to be productive under the idea of fast fashion itself, ladies and gentlemen. However, we are already explained to you how that the idea of fast fashion is going to create very massive a waste of fashions itself, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to several ideas that has been debated in this debate. First of all, we think that as the government side of the house, we already explained to you why that the idea of fast fashion trend is very influence to the society, is really have a very big effect in arising the society demand on clothing, ladies and gentlemen. That's why the clothing store production is very high in status quo. We think that this is very bad because of the idea of, we already explained the idea of rapid changes, society is being influenced, and also the ego bullying and status quo consumerism, and also the idea of massive production, which lead to the massive carbon emission that we already explained to you, ladies and gentlemen. However, we think that when the opposition side of the house argue on the idea, when they believe that the society has already educated in the status quo, we think that they are too angelic to believe that, ladies and gentlemen, because of, for example, we think that when they also explain, when the second speaker brought out the idea, our society our society is following the fast fashion because they need to express themselves by following their idol, for example. We think that that's how that they already explained to you why that this society is stupid enough to only follow their idol and not really considering what will happen at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And second of all, we think when they explain about when they only worrying about what will we wear at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, because of if we stop fast fashion trend, they are too worrying about what will they wear for tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. We think that you are going to still have your clothes at the end of the day, that the fashion store is not going to be closed at the end of the day, even if they are going to ask that in our side that some store, for example, might close. We think that will happen anyway, ladies and gentlemen, because of the idea of competition will be there, right? So that's why we think that it is not going, their worrying, their things should not be considered as, is irrelevant in this debate, right? So, and also about the idea of income, for example, we think that we already explained to you why the idea of income will still be there, because the growth is also a necessity, right? So that's why we think that endorsing this fashion will only considering the nafsu, the desire from the company itself, ladies and gentlemen. And second of all, we already explained to you why that this is going to be very effective, because of first we want to endorse the trend to live fast fashion and shift the trend into environment awareness. That's how we think that we are going to reduce society demand on fashion and clothing store production that will be minimized. We think that when they mention about our inconsistency about limiting production versus reducing production, it is only different words that we use, because of what we mean is only one, that we are going to have a minimized production from our clothing store in our side, how in comparative to their side, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we think that we are so proud in this debate. Thank you.
Thanks for that speech. That's close the debate. Please kindly wait for like around 15 minutes for me to go back to the announcement.